everybody. This is Alicia and Liz, and we are the Decoded TV network, and this is Yellowjackets Decoded. Today, we're going to break down season 2, episode 6, titled Key. Hello, Liz.
Or hi. I was going to say, who?
Huh? Or who?
Who? Yeah.
Yes. So, wow, we knew this was where we were headed, but it's
one
still,
episode.
still
Gosh, that one really hit my heart.
Yeah, it was really sad. It was tough to watch.
It was,
Mhm.
but there was so much humor in it too.
Yeah.
In the beginin, but then that last.
I was also confused for a while because I was like, I didn't think this was the direction we were heading.
Yeah, I was half in, half out.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it when we get there, but yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Oh,
well, let's see. So I know that you took a look back at season 1, episode 6, and wanted to see if you found anything there that was interesting in terms of parallels for this episode.
Yeah, something you taught me. If you go back, there are often little clues or parallels between, the same numbered episodes in different seasons. One thing I caught was we have our ongoing theory that perhaps Lottie's father might be related to what's going on in the present day,
right?
With the random people popping up, like Adam, Walter. You mentioned the truck driver that picked up Ty when she was hitchhiking, the extremely suspicious psychiatrist filling in while Lottie's current psychiatrist is on sabbatical.
And now it kind of turns into just a blank voice.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've talked about perhaps Lottie's dad might have been involved in hiring the plane to take some aerial shots of an area that might be rich in minerals for mining. Anyway, in the beginning of 1-6, it's that kind of Lottie flashback episode where we see her preventing the parents from getting in that car accident by screaming. They stop, and then they realize if they'd kept going, they would have gotten in a horrific crash.
Yeah.
And so then, right after the crash, it cuts to, and I don't remember this from watching it last season, it cuts to Lottie at the staircase at night, listening to her parents arguing about what happened. And so you hear the dad says, "It's just getting worse." The mom says, "You saw what happened, Malcolm." What I jumped on was, Dad got a name, Malcolm. And Mom,
good catch, Liz.
Well, I immediately went to Lost.
Yeah.
Who was the guy that was fighting Ben for ownership of the island? Widmore, Penny's dad.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And what's Lottie's last name? Charlotte. They say it all the time.
Ooh, I don't know. Matthews. Okay.
So we might see a name like Malcolm Matthews.
Yeah. Well, it's, you bring that up, and I was actually found myself wondering while I was watching it, who has footed the bill for this wilderness retreat place that she has?
The cult, right?
Yeah. I mean, something like that is going to cost a lot of money to get off the ground.
Oh, to buy that land?
Yeah.
The land alone.
Right. So I'm like, how is she paying for this, especially if she's been locked up in a mental institution for much of her adult life?
In Switzerland, no less. Can't be cheap.
Yeah.
I had theorized maybe she came into a trust fund, that maybe all the survivors got some amount of money.
That's true.
Since it was her father that had chartered the plane, they might have gotten more.
Right.
He might have fought for more.
From the charter company or something.
Almost killed my daughter. Yeah. The others might not have known to do that.
Yeah, good point.
But,
or might not have had the necessarily the money to have a lawyer that could do something like that.
Yeah, they might have taken a quick little settlement of $5,000 or whatever. Yeah.
Regardless, it's something I hope gets addressed, because they all are living very different lives.
We know that Lottie's cult, they give up their money and their possessions, and
that's true too.
That'll go far.
Yeah.
And if you're running a quote religious cult unquote, then you're tax exempt.
Right.
But anyway, I just thought normally you don't get that. You don't get a name.
Yeah.
I
think that I think it'll be tough. I also found myself thinking that there's probably going to be time next season where we see more that happened at in the immediate aftermath of them getting rescued, like what happened in the first handful, 2 years or whatever after they were rescued.
I'm hoping we do.
Yeah, so I would imagine that that's when we might start getting more information on her dad and family, and maybe some of these theories will be proven, and maybe not. But yeah, I think eventually we're gonna get there for sure. Well, that was a great catch.
Jumped up and down and thought, "Oh, Alicia."
I love it. Good job.
And then the other comp I wrote, does wilderness god hate sex? Because Nat and Travis are making out, talking about sex, and then they see the deer with the bloody antlers and they have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about what happens with Shauna
Right.
in this episode, but it's almost as if there's some sort of, and then Doom's coming when Travis and Jackie have sex. Look what happens to them,
Yeah.
Lottie gets really angry because Jackie took something that wasn't hers. Travis becomes the stag. They're going to kill him. And
it makes me think of like praying mantises too. How the female praying mantis.
Yeah.
It kills.
But I just wrote, does nature god have an issue with sex?
Yeah.
Well, and then think about the sex scene with Travis and Nat that we got.
Right. Oh, yeah.
This season with the weird hallucinations and, there was something going on.
Right. Yeah.
Some kind of woo-woo stuff.
Yeah. But, almost like a desire that the god has the desire to have all of the affections directed towards it than anyone else.
That's one way of looking at it.
So sex, it clouds somebody's judgment and makes it so that you can't place your devotion on any, maybe that's kind of where it's coming from too.
Well, and look what happened to Travis after he had sex with Nat. All of a sudden, Lottie become this goddess figure.
Yeah.
Wisdom creature.
Mm-hmm.
And, that I would argue that night was when his tie to Lottie became really solidified.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems that way.
Now. Yeah. And then, Lottie is baptized by Laura Lee. I wrote spiritual birth or rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway. And then, sorry, most importantly, this is the episode where Shauna tries to self-abort her fetus and Ty's right there by her side. And she says, I'm not going to let you go through this alone. And the same thing happens in this episode.
Yeah, it was nice to see. That's interesting. Wow, that's really great. I love the parallels there. Good. Those were some really good finds.
Thank you.
Well done.
It was fun to do.
Yeah, it was nice to see Ty finally kind of going to bat for Shauna too, about what for Shauna's needs and what she was wanting.
Yeah, Ty and Nat were the two I wrote birth coaches.
Yeah. Well, the episode opens up in health class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where for a moment they make you hopeful that somebody would have been listening.
Oh my God. Well, Misty was. And then she forgets everything because of Crystal. But I was writing down the dialogue from the video, I think, was salient.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, when the episode begins, we get that buzzing TV static, which tells us that it's a memory because of what we've seen with Coach Ben. I believe it starts with a buzz.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like from the Showtime. It kind of, there's like a transition from the Showtime. I was just assuming that was part of the intro, but
no,
it was sort of the sound transition. Yeah.
And I wrote buzzing because maybe it's someone's memory of what happened that day in class. Yeah. Maybe Shauna, maybe Misty.
Yeah.
But it's because one of them is searching their memory for information from that point in time.
Right.
Because Shauna's in labor.
Yeah.
And I'm calling it the unreliable narrator static alert.
Yeah, which we've seen used multiple times, at least this season. So
yeah. Yep. So it begins with during gestation, the fetus gets oxygen. I wrote Nat and 14th Gilly murder attempt and other important nutrients from the umbilical cord, which attaches to the placenta. And then Coach Ben, guys, got to learn this stuff. And I wrote, you do, you really, really do.
Right. You too, buddy.
Yeah. Jeff and Brandy are fucking around with dick size and condoms. And we hear the video mention androgens and sex development in utero. And I wrote Lottie IDing the baby's sex before it was born. Did we learn that it was a boy when we got the real information about
Yeah.
what happened. Labor is signaled by the rupture of the amniotic sac and the beginning of contractions, and then it ends with the infant's lungs will fill with air, signaled by a cry. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote, end of the episode, can't you hear him crying? Why can't you hear him crying?
Mm-hmm.
Over and over, brutal. So yeah, it was important.
It was, yeah, yeah.
In the
It
midst of
really
all
was the
that,
first clue to me too that, we were listening for the baby to cry, or at least that,
yeah,
we were probably being told to listen to for the baby to cry,
yeah,
to
the bits,
determine that he was alive. But obviously we never hear that, or we never really get that, even though Shauna thinks it's happening.
yeah, I mean, it was brutal.
Okay. So yeah,
So,
Misty opening up with just exactly how much blood is there going
yeah,
to be.
Misty,
Smash
dark.
cut to
Well, for also in that, in the flashback, past, whatever, sideways, we get that. I wrote, part of this memory is maybe Shauna thinking about Jeff getting her in a situation and then him not. I mean, this is really old fashioned speak, but like Jeff gets her in a situation, I wrote 50%, where she's left to deal with the fallout.
right, the consequences of their choice. Yeah.
Right, because there's also that note. Jeff
Right.
writes a note and passes it to Shauna. I love the way you tutored me the other day. Let's do it again. But you hear a girl
Uh-huh.
whisper, why did Jeff pass a note to Shauna?
Right. Yeah.
And then Shauna has to fix that,
And protect him.
Poppy, right? Poppy's Jeff. Jackie likes poppies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we get her. And then I went back to the scene in the police station where it's always Shauna cleaning up the mess. Poor
Right.
Jeff would love to help, but not always there or able to.
Yeah.
So I found a lot in that, little beginning
Yeah,
bit.
there's a lot going on. There's a lot of things I think they were trying to tell us about, I guess, really also things that should have happened that didn't, and now the consequences of that.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. Yeah. For
And
running.
each of them has that memory. Maybe that also kind of sometimes feels why it's sort of a shifting perspective type of a memory.
Ooh, yeah.
Because they each, took away something different from it. But it really shows how, like, I just thought, to me too, the fact that it opened that way and then we jumped into the present with her screaming and, going into labor. I just thought, gosh, nobody goes into health class and sits through one of these videos and thinks that they're going to have to deliver their friend's baby in the wilderness.
Right. As
So,
one would hope. Yeah. No, that's a really good point.
you
Like,
know,
because everyone's trying to help in some way and they're all kind of frantically searching, what can I do?
but they're terrified. They have no idea what to do.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense that each one would be reaching back into that memory. What did I learn? What can I
Like,
do?
oh, Jeff, Randy talked about his dick, and
Yeah. Right. Van put a condom on her hand and made a
yeah,
joke.
like they all had sort of these different snippets, but none of them were actually
Paying
helpful
attention.
in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good point.
And to me, that probably was a more realistic way of representing what would actually happen versus some sort of miracle where, they
Right.
all come together and the coach is an actual adult and can figure out how to help them through this and, yada yada.
Christ. All I did was press play on a video.
Yeah.
I wrote Coach Ben wins Who's the Worst award for this episode.
For real. For
My
real.
God.
I just thought, are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
How old are you? I want to know how old you are because you're acting like you're younger than them. This is so crazy to me.
So irresponsible, so heartless.
Yeah.
I mean, at least be present. Don't go into a little fantasy about playing charades and listening to Madonna. Fuck.
And it annoyed me. And, I don't know. They all kind of annoyed me except for Ty and Nat, I guess. But and Akila, but at the same time, when I felt annoyed, I reminded myself that all of these people were experiencing PTSD.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
And in particular, now you're having another like traumatic moment. And so, some of it was probably beyond their control in a way to be able to manage whatever they were feeling and experiencing in that moment. So that's how I got myself unmad at them.
You know what? I was not even mad at Mari because Mari had that delicious line that made me laugh so hard. But Coach Ben was the one that I was
Yeah,
angry at. I
me
mean,
too.
so
I was too.
angry.
Yeah.
I wrote, when you're debating about whether or not to eat Coach Ben, this goes top of the list in the pros section.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that he was just
His behavior.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Sorry, Shauna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah, so
confusing.
we smash cut into the cabin where Shauna is in active labor and they're all trying to figure out what to do, and they're turning to Misty because they think Misty is going to be able to figure it out, and Misty has her own PTSD freeze moment
Yeah.
because of what happened with Kristen.
We've talked about whether or not Misty is capable of PTSD, or like whether or not she actually had much trauma
Mm-hmm.
from the crash and from being out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like those were really great months for her, or that was a really great time when
Right.
she was a part of something. I noted, this should have been like the best day of her life. Everyone turning to her, her getting the very thing that she smashed, the transponder.
Yeah.
Am I making up that word? The
The
very reason that she smashed the
black box.
"here we are" machine
Right.
was because she was getting all that attention for being the go-to. I know CPR, I know how to chop off a leg, I know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
I know first aid, and everyone's turning to her, expecting her to get Shauna through this, and she can't enjoy it because, yeah, she's so
Yeah.
traumatized. And I really think it was more about the loss that she was feeling.
Yeah.
They had a plan. They were going to do a song at the end,
Yeah.
you know?
And I mean, this is all still happening within the same 24 hours. So
Yeah. She
it's
sees
a,
the blood
it's
on
a
her
lot.
hands, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave us some insight into Misty's emotional capacity.
Right. Yeah, I
She's
agree.
more human than perhaps we thought.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I mean, it really
So
was
we
about
get the opening credits and then we move into the beginning, which starts with Misty checking herself into
Health camp.
Lottie's retreat
Yep.
and all of her gangster Dick Tracy weapons.
Brass knuckles,
Yes.
little spyglasses,
Syringe.
and a bottle of something.
Yeah.
It was great.
We see Walter's Ben blowing up her phone even though he sped off.
Yep.
And then we have this delicious moment between Misty and Lottie where Lottie sees Misty for the first time, and Misty suddenly becomes this non-mousy
Charlotte.
version of herself as she says, "Hello, Charlotte."
Hello, Charlotte. So good.
I was like, what is that about?
I know. Now, what did you read on Lottie's face?
I wrote about that for a minute. I wrote that what am I seeing here is Lottie looks concerned, she looks afraid, she looks amazed. We find out later when she's talking to her therapist that she is feeling some kind of way about the fact that everybody's being drawn to her in her mind, like that, or to the energy that's taken over her that's being pulled back. But on my first watch of it, before I knew that scene was coming, to me, she looked very concerned and a little bit afraid of Misty. What about you?
I thought she looked angry, the same
Yeah.
way she did when Nat confronted her at the rebirth thing when she got loose. But yeah, I think it was more wonder and surprise and shock.
Right. Yeah.
Why the universe has brought you to me.
Right.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got Nat and now you here. But yeah, I liked how Misty was feeling herself very proud, being in control, having the upper hand.
Yeah.
And then Lottie quickly disarmed her with, can you stay? Please stay. It would be really good for Nat. Could be good for you too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Misty finding out through Lottie that Nat tried to kill herself, which she clearly is news to her. And again, this is coming off the heels of her already like going, wait, like, how did I miss something going on with my friend? So this is building on that fear that like, why am I somebody who thinks I know everything about everything? And this is also something I didn't know.
Well,
so
I think
that maybe the seeds of self-doubt in the present are paralleled with the self-doubt that Missy's feeling in the past.
That's a really good catch.
And maybe she hasn't really felt this way
in a
since
while.
moment, or you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
that's like the moment she identifies most as a moment where she felt uncertain about things.
Yeah, we've been comparing, contrasting the ways that present day survivors are feeling the effects of this 25-year cycle,
Right.
or having the past come back. Ty having the altar return, losing time again. Shauna getting more violent. I don't know how to put that one, but acting out in her affair.
Right. Yeah.
And we hadn't really seen much in Misty.
Right.
That's really good. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, we see Misty not feeling in control of everything around her for the first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think initially Misty says, "I don't believe you," you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not true.
No.
And we see Lottie having a moment that looked like she was attending to another voice or another vision.
Oh, right. Yes. She has that moment. Yeah. Where she looks like
Yeah.
she's in pain or like something's,
Yep.
you're right. Yep.
So if we were looking at someone with an active psychosis, we would call that attending to internal
Okay.
stimuli.
Okay.
So it looks
I
like
didn't realize
that's what's
that.
happening. And that's when she gets the idea, well, why don't you stay?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like she's being told to invite her to stay.
Yeah. She needs to
Mhm.
be here. I wrote really quickly themes of this episode.
Yes.
Where are you? Why are you there, here, wherever you are? And where are you supposed to be? And then
Okay.
Shauna and motherhood, and then other stuff about that. But there's a lot of talk about, where are you? Where are you supposed to be? Why? Getting you where you are supposed to be. With
I'm so
every
glad you
character.
said that because I was thinking about the title of the episode and I couldn't figure out how it tied in, but now that makes more sense.
Well, how does it make sense to you? Because it's who, not where.
Yeah, but it's also, isn't that why as well?
No, it's who. Who.
Who. Yeah.
I thought it might relate to what Nat and Lottie are feeling in present day about the darkness. It's inside, like the psychiatrist asks the important question, who is it? And maybe it's referring to that moment.
Oh, right. Like
it's inside of us. We brought it back. It is doing X, Y, and Z. Who is it, right? But like Callie and Shauna in the police station. Who? What did you do? Who?
right. Who? Yeah.
Who?
Or who are you? Really?
Oh, Shauna with her baby. I can't wait to see who you are, who you grew up to be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Probably it sort of covers a myriad of different kind of meanings and possibilities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Shauna and Jeff and Callie in the kitchen.
Yes. So Shauna's being called by the cops. They want her to come in. So they're having this conversation and
yeah, I got your back, babe. We'll go down there. We'll handle it. I got your back, babe. She's like, actually, they want to talk to me and Callie. God damn it, Shauna.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was afraid of.
I think it's quite funny how Shauna you can really see Callie seeing her mom through new eyes, as more adult eyes, like, oh, okay, this is who my mom is. I thought I knew who she was, but apparently I didn't.
New mom being more open with me.
Yeah.
Eesh.
Yeah.
Would have been.
And it's weird because I feel like Callie's at such an impressionable age where she's trying to figure out who she is. So part of her is going, oh, okay, and leaning into who her mom is and how maybe it makes her feel okay to lean into parts of her that maybe she thought her mom might be ashamed of. But at the same time, Shauna's still setting an example for her daughter of, hey, it's okay to do these things, to lie and to manipulate and all of that.
Well, it's this part of her mom that she hasn't had access to.
Yeah.
Her entire life. So it must be like gold, these moments of reveal.
Right.
And I don't think Callie realizes what is happening. And when she tosses off, it would have been easier if you just had sex with him, that Callie's going to hold on to that and act on it.
What later on when she says that she tried her idea, I felt like that was even a separate conversation that they had that we didn't see.
Really?
I don't know. In the moment on my first watch, I got the impression that it was like Shauna said to Callie before they went in, really lean into the fact that you guys had sex, because
I don't think Shauna's that overtly cold.
I don't know. Well, honestly, at this point,
we hear her saying as they walk in, now, baby, you don't have to say anything that you don't want to say, or she's giving some sort of caring advice, like, don't be afraid.
Because she says, I tried your idea.
I really think this is Callie
just like taking this conversation and turning it into that.
Thinking oh, this is what she wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is what she would do, what I should do. This would be the
Mm-hmm.
smart thing.
Yeah.
Like little kids, you don't realize how much they're picking up or what they're
Right.
listening. I think we're seeing that with Callie, that
Yeah.
now that
And
she's
how they
getting
filter whatever it is that you're doing through whatever lens they have.
right, warped lens. Yeah, but when Shauna says, it would have been so much easier if you just had sex with him, and explains why, I think she's thinking, I'm just being blasé and making a joke out of it, not realizing that to Callie it sounds like, this is what you should have done, this is what you should do.
Yeah. Or this is the way to get out of this.
And it's a way to get her out of it, how to get
Mm-hmm.
Shauna out of it.
Right.
Because she
Exactly.
says, if you
Yeah.
just had sex with him, then nothing you told him about me would have been admissible.
Right.
So imagine the power Callie would feel being able to save her mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
That's how I took it.
Yeah.
I like the dynamic in the household. Like in the other episode when Shauna and Jeff are giving different responses kind of simultaneously to Callie, like a cop, and how old is he? And this time it's between Jeff and Callie to Shauna's line about you should have sex with him.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff says, Shauna. And Callie says, wow, mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What? Just saying.
Just say I'm not saying I wanted you to. I'm just saying that
saying.
this is how you get out of this.
I noted, well, we go from this scene to Shauna in labor.
Right.
At the very end, Shauna says, well, should we just go get it over with?
Oh, yeah. And Shauna's going, get it out of me. Let's get this over
Get
with.
it out of me. How long is it going to take?
Yeah.
I just want this over and done with. I really like Tequila stepping up.
Me too. Me too.
She's
I
a
agree.
good caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Very smart. But yeah, everyone's like, what do we do? Mari suggests boiling water. That's something people do, right?
Yeah. You're like, well, I don't know. I did find myself wondering, like, through the episode. I know we've got a range of ages here, but I really felt like, gosh, they're really, really clueless about all of this. And I wondered, like, myself at that age, how many people, if I was in a group of, girls in this situation, how many people would be able to keep their composure and have a better idea of what to do than these girls did. And I don't know the answer to it, but
I think at that age, you think back to what movies have I watched? What do they do?
Right.
Boiling water,
Mm-hmm.
But I think also keep in mind, Shauna's been distancing herself and kind of isolating,
Mm-hmm.
and she's been kind of prickly and hasn't wanted anyone really around her or talking to her. So I wonder if a lot of them felt like, is it okay for me to step up? Like,
right. Yeah. What are we supposed to do? What does she want us to do?
Yeah. They want to help, but they don't really know what they're allowed to do.
Yeah, that's true too. And then as everybody's sitting there kind of unsure of what to do, Lottie, maybe we can share our hopes with one another. Like, what? Wilderness? I hope Shauna doesn't die. Is she gonna be okay, Wilderness? She's like looking around the room.
I love that. I loved Mari in that moment.
Me too.
That was the best. And then
She's like, I don't know what to do, but okay.
Shauna suddenly, wait, what? I'm gonna die? What?
But the truth of the matter is that she should have died. I mean, as soon as that first blood came out, I just thought, oh goodness, we're dealing with.
We've got wilderness healing going on.
Yeah. Placenta previa is what we ended up getting here, right?
Yeah, people bleed to death from that.
Yeah, exactly. Mom, you would frequently lose one, if not both.
Yeah.
So the fact that Shauna lived makes me very, very curious as to if that was because of the wilderness and not because she technically should have lived in this situation.
It makes me think of Van and her face.
Right.
And Coach Ben and his leg.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
There's some quick healing going on.
Very quick.
Now, you could say, like, maybe lots of iron was really helpful, but Shauna was not healthy. She was malnourished.
Right.
With no care, no prenatal care.
Mm-hmm.
And then the placenta comes out, and I just thought, well, that should be game over for both.
Like, I wondered if anybody would have even known that in order to... So I got the impression, or let me ask, I don't know, could they have, if somebody had known what to do, could they have put their hands inside and turned the baby so that that wouldn't have happened? Or was that really just that was going to happen no matter what? Because that sort of happens
Well,
earlier on.
I think that's what, right. That I think it had already happened.
Okay.
Going back to servant, that was
Yeah.
what, she was on bed rest for.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was
Right.
just thinking of, was like, wait a minute. And there they knew for a while. So yeah.
Yeah, I when it was coming out and they said it, it's the wrong color, it's all purple.
Hmm.
I think that was meant to signal that this had happened before,
Yeah.
prior,
Yeah.
prior to.
We mentioned in our last episode, we're trying to
Yes.
refer to it that way now. That she hadn't talked about like feeling the baby kick or move or anything
No.
like that.
No.
And that was kind of concerning. We were thinking that might be an indicator that the baby
Yeah.
had already passed, maybe.
Yeah, because as you learn in the health video, that's where it gets its oxygen and important nutrients.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have known to cauterize or,
No.
didn't really have instruments. So, I mean, this is really dark. I even thought about when Shauna tried to self-abort, if perhaps she had done some damage,
Yeah. Yeah, you could be right. That would make sense too. In that situation, how could, I mean, it was not like there's any ultrasound or any way for anybody to check and know.
Right. But then, yeah, so Lottie starts to lay hands and what did she say? Shauna, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Just let your pain open you to the moment. And then Ty quickly, I know you're trying to help. Stop helping.
Yes, Ty handled her very well. I would have been like,
use her away.
So we cut away back to Nat, who is partaking in some shooting practice.
Bad target practice. Her aim is gone.
It's off, so she knows something's wrong with her.
Yeah, and Lisa, sweetly, I really love this relationship between Nat and Lisa.
Yeah, me too.
I'm loving Lisa.
It's like, I mean, you see how she's trying to prove that she can keep and care for this goldfish, but I think Lisa is sort of the personification of that. Like, can I have a friend that I don't
hurt or kill?
Right. Yeah, like a second chance at a female friendship that's maybe healthy or that's innocent and unaffected yet by time. I don't know.
She encourages Nat to take care of something that is innocent. Lisa's the goldfish. Lisa is Gilly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because Nat's talking about, I'm poison. I destroy people. I killed my best friend.
Right.
The only person I ever loved. The only person that knew me. In my notes, I wrote, how did Nat get so mixed up about Travis in the past? Her line has been, Travis didn't believe in any of this stuff. He thought it was all bullshit. But what we're seeing is Travis was a believer from the beginning.
That's what it looks like.
So in my notes, I wrote, why does she keep mistaking the truth of Travis in the past? Maybe Travis got disillusioned, and then maybe Nat witnessed something towards the end that made her a believer.
Yeah.
So that
right. Yes. You know what? I think that you have a good point, because I do think that we've talked a lot about like this, like them separating, but I'm wondering if that happens, because to me, it seems like they're all just very slowly moving towards Lottie's side of things in the past. Have you noticed that at all?
I have.
Like one by one, they're each starting to either not necessarily, and it may not even be like a belief so much as I don't know what else to do, because everything else is so bleak that there's nothing else I can do. So if that means that I have to join this group and believe in something or act like I believe in something in order to be able to get through this and survive here, then I guess I'll try it, because what else am I going to do?
And to not feel so alone.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Out here. Yeah.
And helpless.
Well, and I wonder if that was a big part of this episode, was to demonstrate how traumatized they are, how little control they have over everything, and how big the stakes keep getting. They keep upping.
I love that you said that, because I literally wrote in my notes, what are you feeling or thinking about the pacing of this season and where it's heading? And what do you think the stakes are? Because I'm personally, and this isn't necessarily a criticism, but I'm not sure what the stakes are and why I should be caring so much about like these women getting together and figuring out what this thing is. I don't know if that makes sense, but
well, yeah, because we haven't seen the darkness yet.
Right,
all
exactly.
Is the terror and the fear and the lack of control and the woo-woo bullshit.
Right.
Listening to trees and pine needles, but we haven't seen the real threat and the threat that they become.
Right. Or the threat that's like, what's at stake in the present day for me to care about like this group of women being together for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, I think what they're realizing is we hear it through the episode, but we hear it with Jeff saying, Shauna, you need to get away. You're like an active danger to your family right now.
Mm-hmm.
We see Ty coma her wife.
Right.
Van doesn't believe that she should be around people. Nat
Yeah.
thinks she's poison. They all have a reason to believe that there's something terrible inside of them. And so maybe they need to get together to figure out how to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I just wish we knew more about what this darkness is. I think it's time to start seeing that.
Exactly. Yeah. But if they brought it home with them, does that imply that it's wanting them to continue making those sacrifices here? And if that's the case, then what are the larger consequences? Why is it just now popping back up as being something that needs to be fed, essentially? I don't know. So I'm interested to see, I guess, where it's going.
We've got this contrast between, are we doing semblance of control and safety, which I think is the whole nature is the new religion, nature God. What are they chanting at Shauna's birth?
We hear the wilderness and it hears us.
Yeah. So that line, the idea of we listen.
Survival, not just survival, but also, escaping or getting rescued. And then whatever it is that, is the antagonistic force there out in the wilderness, all that kind of makes sense. But I think knowing that they do get rescued and then we started and we saw them in the future having, productive, normal lives to some degree, that just sort of begins to go off the rails. Are the stakes sort of the same as when they were younger and in the wilderness, or are the stakes different? And yeah, if so, what do we think that is? And why is it something that we should be sort of super invested in?
What immediately pops into my head, and I don't know if this is a good answer to the question, is we've got this contrast between, in the past, are we doing the right thing and rationalizing what they need to do to survive and to feel some sort of semblance of control and safety, which I think is the whole nature is the new religion, nature God.
We hear the wilderness. Well, I know they were chanting at one point, we hear the wilderness and it hears us.
Yeah. So that line, the idea of we listen, we find what we need, we honor, and we get what we need to live. Contrast with present day, all this talk about we brought it back. We brought it back. It's in us. And we don't really know what it is, and maybe who is it or what is it, and what do they think they brought back? What are they afraid is in them? Is that the darkness? Yeah. Would that be the stakes?
Probably so, yeah. Maybe knowing that these girls were rescued from the jump, maybe for me, that takes away a little bit of the suspense or a little bit of like the stakes because we know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how I'm feeling. And that's why I'm wanting to then go, okay, well, since I already know that this thing happened, then I need to know why the future timeline is so important in the bigger, like, grand scheme of things, especially when you've got characters who, while I appreciate stories about mental health, and that's an important topic to me in general too, because the show sort of has seemed to want to present itself as like a mystery type show, then maybe I don't know, maybe I'm needing a little bit. I want them to give us a little something to let me know, aside from their own mental health, what else is it in the future that makes that storyline important.
Right.
Maybe that's why I'm feeling that way. But yeah, I've just been trying to explore like what my feelings are about it at the end of the episode. And that was sort of what came up for me in this one. Maybe they need a little more mystery in a way. If they're like ways to build suspense and intrigue into like what are the possibilities of what we could be heading towards.
Well, that's what I keep waiting for. I keep
Yeah.
waiting for the good stuff, which is the cannibalism. As dark as that sounds, I want to learn more about how the cards became a thing
Right.
and how they got to we're going to actively hunt each other.
Yeah. And I think that's why my first comment was about pacing. It was like, how do you feel about the pacing of this? Because for me, I'm getting to a point where, yeah, I'm starting to want a little bit more from the plot advancement and story and how that, develops into the characters and what was sort of laid out in the very first episode.
Yeah, it was such a tease, the
Yeah.
pilot, and then where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just because it's been so dark,
Yeah.
culminating with the last episode.
Also shows so much less time now to develop a story. Lost had 22 episodes and most shows now
Right.
have 10 on average,
Yeah.
so you're not devoting the time that you used to some of that development,
I
character
and
development.
I'm not as interested in what it is.
Right, yeah, me either, because I feel
I
like
don't
it's kind of already been
laid out.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, like
Yeah.
the wilderness,
Yeah.
and it's has some kind of awareness, whether it's a metaphor or not. Yeah, I mean, we kind of know.
They did terrible things.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much it, right? They
Yeah.
they did horrible things to survive,
Mhm.
and they're having a hard time dealing with it.
Yeah.
Not to be flippant, but
Yeah.
yeah, there could be more mystery in the tunnels, or why is this tree
Right.
weird? Where was
Exactly. Yeah.
Poppy? Who's his friend? Why was Ty in a tree eating dirt? That kind of stuff from
Yeah.
season 1.
Right.
Reveal of the basement altar. I don't know. Yeah,
But
I
it's
think I
probably part of that's probably the challenge you create when you have such a sprawling show and so many characters and so many name actors who will want screen time.
yeah. And who can
And
do
so
so
you're trying
much.
to write a balanced story that sort of covers as much as you can cover each episode, and maybe in that regard some of the original stuff gets kind of
Lost.
lost along the way.
Yeah. Well, and
Not that
like
they won't come back to it, but like the pacing of it is a little slower because of that.
I see them sprinkling in new mysteries, like what's going on with Van.
Yeah.
But even that one's kind of a downer, like
Well, yeah, exactly.
so maybe a little more fun mystery.
Yeah.
Who are
Yeah.
we?
Exactly.
We're just
Yeah.
talking about a show that we watch that
Yeah, exactly.
other people slave to create.
I know.
But
I'm like, no, it's great. Yeah, it's great.
I hear what you're saying though. I do.
Yeah. And like I said, yeah, I don't necessarily mean it as a criticism, just, it was something I had been thinking because I was trying to pinpoint and understand, oh, why am I feeling this way? What could the reasoning be there? So thank you for
Yeah.
discussing it with me.
You're very welcome.
I think you brought up some really good points. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard the beeping going on in the background. I suddenly got a flurry of Reddit alerts about Yellow Jacket. Like, you want to talk about me? Well, here's a mystery. Here's another mystery. Here's
It was listening to you.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
It heard me. The darkness heard me.
I hear the Reddit and the Reddit hears us.
Yeah. Oh no.
No. Okay, so yeah, we kind of left off before I took us on this little tangent, just back in the cabin, and Misty's trying to orient herself, and this is when she sees that there's a lot of blood loss occurring with Shauna, and she kind of starts to freak out. And I think that metaphorically speaking, she's got blood on her hands, which parallels to what she's feeling about what happened with Crystal, and feeling like, even though she didn't push her over the cliff, Crystal's blood is on her hands, like her death is she's played a part in it, and she's feeling that guilt in that moment.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before. Like, is it I'm arguing, is it guilt or is it just personal loss?
I think it's probably a mixture of things. I think that she is feeling guilt. I don't know, how could she not be? she screamed at her, "I will fucking kill you," and then the girl fell.
Oh, I meant just because she might be like a sociopath,
Oh,
psychopath
right.
that lacks
Oh, right.
empathy,
Yeah,
or
like she wouldn't be feeling that. I see what you're saying.
it was more about, I lost. We were going to do a song.
Mm,
I lost
mhm.
my BFF. My
It could be, what is everybody going, like, if and when these people find out, what are they going to think about me?
Oh yeah,
Because that would be a more
yeah.
sociopath type
I
mindset.
think that is a really good point,
Yeah.
because she showed Crystal her darkest secret,
Yeah.
and Crystal rejected her immediately.
Right.
Crystal, who is also kind of dark.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that in present day with Walter. And,
Oh, yeah. True.
like, she knows that Walter is still trying to text her, or,
Mm,
contact her. And I wonder if she's worrying if, is it safe to reveal myself? Or, I mean,
yeah.
she's already revealed. Is it safe to trust
Yeah.
and be with this person? What would that look like? In that she's in the drumming cry circle, and she says, I've never been in a long-term relationship, or I've never had a breakup. And horse meat guy says, well, what about Walter? So
You made a
yeah,
great point there. I didn't think about it that way, about it being about her, like, not trusting that somebody who says, "Hey, you can talk to me and tell me things," that because of what happened, she wouldn't trust that anymore. I hadn't thought about it that way. But that makes total sense. Definitely.
and I think it links her to one of the overall themes of the episode, which all of the present day survivors are wrestling with, which is, how dark did I leave the wilderness, and how lovable am I now?
Can
Like,
I ever feel?
is it safe to feel
Yeah.
again? Is it safe
Right.
to connect
hmm
again? Or is this
Yeah.
just what I'm left with?
Yeah. And Lottie suggests that they need to give offerings to the wilderness.
Yeah.
Um,
A
I think it's
button.
a great sort of struggle between faith and just either science or coincidence or reality or whatever. But they get the head of the animal, the bones,
Right. The skull.
the skull. Thank you. Alicia
the
doesn't
the
know what
head
words are today. A
the head
skull.
bones. The head bones.
The head bone. And
um
Travis is the first, which I thought was interesting, to cut his palm open and drip blood onto the skull.
yeah, I saw it as the development of Lottie's
Mm,
religion, because
hmm
she immediately says spill blood. Like, it's a term now. You spill blood.
Yeah,
And that means cut your palm, drip it onto the object, something that she's been doing alone.
right.
Now she's got other people doing it.
And these people are doing it because
It's what you do.
it's what you do. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like,
Yeah, it's
how do you
becoming
know
more
it works?
organized.
They don't know that it works. They have to have enough that's happened to make them believe that it works.
Yeah, we're seeing the organization of her religion, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, when Travis does so, she says, it recognizes your offering, and I
hmm
do too.
Yeah. You're offering your
Now,
sacrifice. Yeah.
yeah, and I acknowledge it as well,
Yeah.
whatever she says. But it's her aligning herself now with the wilderness god
Right.
in a more formal way than we've seen before. Before it was more
Yeah.
like, I'm just kind of open and intuiting and seeing, whatever my gut feeling says, and doing what I feel, and kind of,
hmm
follow if you want. And now it seems more, this is what you do.
Right.
And I'm attesting to its, being right or wrong.
It makes me wonder what how these things are coming to her. How does she
Right.
know, or why does she think that this will work? Is there something in her mind that's telling her, that this is what we need, or this is, like, for these things to develop, there's got to be some sense of teaching what the rules are or what's being asked of them. So if they're following her lead on it, it makes me wonder where all that's coming from.
I know. I look at the previous episode where Shauna and Ty are lost in the snowstorm, and she begins the chanting, and they find each other.
hmm
And so I think every little coincidence or every little step that ends up working becomes proof.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's also interesting because he ties the cloth around his hand in the same way we see Lottie in the present day with the cloth around her hand. And
I think she ties it, doesn't she? Or he grabs it and she
yeah,
helps
she
tie it
might.
for
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes me wonder that like that would probably be something that's recognized by the others in the group as being something that they had been doing. So I was kind of surprised that there was no mention of the fact that her hand was wrapped up. I can't remember if somebody did ask. I'm just trying to remember, was it Nat that asked or Misty?
As in present day.
Yeah, in present day.
Oh yeah, in the mirror exercise,
Yes.
when Lisa's saying, this we do it works, and Lottie pops up behind Nat and says, "Yeah, and it works," and
Yeah.
Nat clocks the cloth, and
Yeah, and she knows.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're back to your old ways.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I know what that is.
I know what that is. I know what you've been doing.
Also, just a little tiny note to make sure you caught that there was a lock of hair that was set on the skull.
No.
Yeah, so somebody sets a lock of hair on the skull. And that reminded me of the fact that people have been chatting about like all of the locks of hair that are dangling from the
Antler Queen dress, right?
Yeah. And so people were trying to like figure out whose hair it was and thinking that correlates with people that die or something like that. But the writers went back or maybe it was the costumer, it was one of them, but they went back and said that there was no like specific meaning given to it when they made that choice. They were just trying to make it look creepy, and that was the choice they made. And now, I guess the writers are trying to go back and find a way to give that some
ascribed meaning to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That makes me think of Ty when she cut her hair off before her quest that went so terribly wrong.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I would not have caught it. All I saw was a button and like an acorn or something.
I didn't know what that other thing was. I was trying to figure out. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, I have no idea.
So we go from that scene quickly into a scene with Lottie and the psychiatrist, and it was it was very different from the first time.
Yeah, I think that was a hallucination.
Okay, so what about it makes you feel like it was a hallucination?
Because we don't see the therapist, or we don't see the psychiatrist. It would be difficult to so quickly get an appointment. And for it to be a talk therapy appointment, because that's not what psychiatrists typically do. It's more of a med checkup.
Right.
And that's what we saw the first time.
Yeah.
I'm here to up my meds if I can. And then we suddenly have her dipping in to just talk.
Yeah.
So that, and the way the way it was framed, the way it was shot, and what I just mentioned made me think it was a hallucination. But then the other suspicion could be if this is some nefarious other type person posing as a psychiatrist, because it's like one of Walter's people or some other group. It would make sense because now they've got her talking about her visions and her hallucinations.
True. Yeah, that's true.
So maybe that's important for some reason. I don't know what it would be, but
I did find it interesting. I thought that perhaps it was a way of beginning to show some dissociation of some kind with her, or that just to show the progression of how Lottie is slipping back into this sort of dark, isolated, and confused place in her mind. And so not seeing whoever she's talking to kind of helps to disconnect us from that too, maybe.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And shows us that she's kind of talking, but there's not a ton of feedback. There's not a ton of, it just feels weird. It feels a little unhealthy. It feels dark. Even the scene itself is dark. There's like really no windows open. There's not much light in the room.
No.
So, and then the camera just really slowly zooms in on Lottie as she's talking.
So are you thinking this is her in her own mind?
I don't know. I didn't get the impression that it was hallucinated, but so that's what I'm thinking, is that like it was more about showing how she's unraveling Not so much
Okay.
that there's like a mystery to it, but it was just shot this way to sort of let us know where Lottie is at this point in time.
Well, let's go over what the dialogue from that scene, because
Hmm.
I think it's important. Thanks for seeing me on such short notice. It's still happening. The visions. This feeling about things I know are right in front of me. It's like it's pointing me towards back then. And the therapist asks, or the psychiatrist, towards your past. It's like I told you before, the psychiatrist is saying, it's not uncommon for people whose psychoses are controlled to feel anxiety about their symptoms returning.
Hmm.
And, is it maybe possible that your fear of the past might be a fear of your illness? And she says, no, that's the problem. She's not feeling fear. I'm
Hmm.
not worried. I'm not worried that I'm ill. I'm worried that I've never been ill.
Hmm.
And that's why all this is happening.
Right.
Travis, Natalie, now Misty too. It's like it sent them here to show me, to show you what, that it was real and
Yeah.
that I wasn't the only one who felt it out there. It was all of us.
Yeah.
It was a part of us. What is it, Lottie? The power of that place, the God of that place. We did terrible things in its name. And I thought that when we were rescued, that we left it there, but now I realize we have brought it back with us. So
Yeah.
it's almost like this is a joyful thing for Lottie in a way. Like I was never sick. I was
Right.
never mentally ill. I've always had this special connection
Yeah.
to the universe or whatever, and maybe to that God. But then she's also, saying that we did terrible things in its name. I thought we left it there, but now it's back. Is she happy that it's back?
I don't think she's happy. She seems upset that, like anybody would, if they find out that, like, this thing that they thought was one thing for their whole life, suddenly now they're realizing, like, oh, wait, this is not the way it was. Maybe it was this. And then you have to reckon with that feeling, with all of the feelings that come along with that. Whether that's, anger or sadness or guilt, or, it's probably a number of things that she's feeling.
Okay.
Betrayal too by her, by her parents, and perhaps that speaks to maybe what the larger stakes are in the future timeline. Sort of, if it all was real, then what does that mean? What are the consequences of that? But yeah, I think in her mind, she's sort of built her identity around something that she's now beginning to learn is different than what she thought it was, and so that's a big thing to wrestle with, probably.
Yeah, similar to when they crashed and she had to go off her meds.
Hmm.
It's just to live life a different way. What does that look like?
Hmm.
Is it good? Is it bad? Is it powerful? I don't know. I didn't really know how to read that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of, and then also it probably shows us the difference between how Lottie presents herself to everybody else and the sort of real Lottie and what's really going on, because she comes
Yeah.
off very together and very healed and whatnot, but we see in those sessions that she's really not.
Well, I
And
find it
so
interesting.
that's like another way to show the audience that the facade that she's been, putting up is exactly that, a facade.
A facade.
At least right now in the present moment, even if everything was technically fine before recently.
What do you make of her taking on the symbol, even to the point of constructing the grounds to be the symbol
That,
of,
yeah.
nature god or whatever that terrible, powerful god was that they did terrible things for? Why bring it back in that way?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps that's what she's also having to reckon with, is having brought this thing that's really dark, into
Oh,
another area of her life, maybe, and like is
like
calling it in.
maybe I was just using it. I could use it for my personal gain.
Well, I think that she thought that it was meant to be good. If we think about like what with From, and how on that show they're talking about how there are good symbols and bad symbols, and you have to figure out which symbols represent what.
Sorry, I have a hard time distinguishing between Haben Daddy and the one with no eyes and
Hmm.
Nature God.
Hmm.
Because Cabin Daddy and Ty and her altar and the one with no eyes, they're more associated with the symbol.
Right.
And Nature God is something different,
Hmm.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So perhaps that symbol is actually means something bad and it pulls that bad energy. And that's part of why, even Nat was like, why did you put that symbol on the baby blanket? So far, all we've seen is it bring bad things.
So why put it on a necklace?
I know, exactly. But
Okay.
but Lottie has
He's decided
built a
that it
following and decided, that it's a good thing. And so now she's willing to defend that till the end in order to save face. Otherwise, she
got
has
it.
to admit that like she was wrong. And I don't know that she really wants to do that.
Okay. I like how Misty became a celebrity because she knows Shauna, or she knows
Yeah.
Nat and Lottie.
It's kind of funny to watch, and they did this last season too when they went to to their reunion. But it's interesting to watch, like when they're united together, how everybody else treats them like they're some kind of
That's right.
royalty of some kind. So they did it
Yeah.
last year, now they're doing it this year with the cult facility, and how they're all. But it's also echoes high school. It also echoes this sort of idea of we're all interested in the workings, the inner workings of this clique, of this group of people that we find fascinating for one reason or another.
Yeah, well, people are talking about them, so they must be important or special. That's a really good point. I just love that Misty's getting everything that she wants, being asked to stay, attention, popularity, people listening to her.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's definitely getting benefits from it that she probably didn't anticipate. But
Right.
yeah, I think she's realizing that she doesn't maybe have to be alone in life, and that there are her people are out there somewhere.
She dives right into the heliotrope. You think that was her going undercover?
Well, she says she says so. She says that.
When does she say that?
Oh gosh, I think she says it
Like on the phone with Ty, or
maybe, yeah, because she says or I want to say though that she also said it to some of the group too. She was like, "I'm just here waiting to see Nat, so I don't really believe in any of this."
Yeah.
Yeah, which is weird because I kind of thought she was leaning into it and going, "Huh, I could make this work for me."
Maybe.
But later on, she says the opposite. So
okay, thank you. Let's see.
So we got Coach's flashback.
Fucking Coach.
To the cabin.
Fucking Coach. Yeah, the apartment / cabin, right? Like you can fully escape. You don't deserve to fully escape. Let that cabin stay with you forever, Coach. Ben.
That was another instance where it stinks that he's freaking out so much and can't pull it together. But I didn't understand why that was inserted. Other than, I think that at this point, I don't know.
Like, we get it. You go away to escape, and you dream about your boyfriend, and
and you're traumatized and you don't know what to do.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You don't want to be here. We get it, Coach Ben.
Yeah.
Go back to your
useless.
Read. Yeah. Elsewhere.
Yeah. And so Misty finally kind of steps up as we cut away from there and into the police station.
Yeah. Hi, Jay.
Where, right? He looks so smug too.
So smug.
Yeah.
And Shauna says, "I don't want you talking to my child alone."
That annoyed me because he can't do that.
No, Callie's a minor.
Yeah.
If the parents don't give permission, they cannot interview alone.
They can't do it. Exactly.
Do you think
why was it being done?
Do you think Callie said it's okay? I want to.
I mean, maybe, but even then, it doesn't matter because she's a minor and her mother said no.
Exactly. Why do you think they showed that then? Like, to reinforce that it was Shauna's plan after all, that you were right. Maybe
yeah. And to kind of force them into screwing up further, because that helps with a little bit of plot armor there, that they've screwed it up so much that there's nothing they can do about it, and that kind of gets rid of that problem.
So why would Shauna say, "I don't want you talking to her alone"? I mean, if they were law-abiding detectives, then that would have been the end of it, right?
Right.
Then how did he end up with her alone? Shauna changed
the rules,
his mind.
really. He broke the rules to his own detriment. I mean, he should be fired, really.
I bet Shauna knows exactly how to play this.
Yeah.
She was like, he's so high on his own hubris, he'll do it anyway. And that'll help our plan.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think they talked about it beforehand. They worked it all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm,
'Cause, you know, we don't see the drive on the way over,
yeah.
but I get a sense that that was the conversation that occurred. Well, I don't know.
No, but
Because I don't think it happened in front of Jeff. So
certainly not. No, no. No, I think you're right. I think it
yeah,
was plotted out beforehand.
yeah.
The bit about the balls was the perfect, cherry on top.
Yeah. Shauna may have even told her to say that exact thing.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Gross.
So we cut back to the video store where Van is trying to pretend like she's not interested in what's happening.
Yeah, Sandy good, Sandy bad. Have you seen Miss Congeniality?
I have, of course. It was shot in Austin.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
are you in it?
I'm not in it, but one of my professors in college actually has a fun little part in it.
Oh, what part?
He plays the like hairdresser makeover person when she's in the warehouse getting ready, like right before she comes out in that pink dress.
That's so cool.
His name is
That's
Lucian Douglas. So
one
shout
of the
out
best
to
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, Lucian.
He's great in it.
That's definitely Sandy good.
Yeah. Yeah. Definite Sandy good.
I was looking on Reddit and a couple people pointed out that of the bills in Van's trash bin,
Mhm.
one is a medical bill and one is like an electrical bill.
Huh.
But there's one for like family medicine. So they're leaving it, the writers are leaving it open that it could be like debt from her mom's treatment.
Right. Yeah.
Or it could point to Van being sick.
Yeah, and something she's dealing with medically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she's when she and Ty are kind of going out a little bit, I think before this, or maybe it's in the scene, she says, I have to take care of myself.
Right. You know what? You have a great point, and you might be right, because that would also sort of makes more sense as to why she would just throw out the bills
Yeah.
versus like putting them in a stack of like, oh shit, I've got to get to this eventually. But she just tossed them in the trash.
Yeah. Like, what are they going to do? How are they
Yeah,
going to
exactly. So you have a really great point there. That she might be more sick. That might be something that's coming down the pipe that we don't know about yet.
Well, I mean, what would take the light out of one of the most effervescent characters?
Yeah.
Who survived a wolf attack to the face.
No kidding.
And is still, capable of love and light.
Mm-hmm.
He's so just empty, kind of devoid of any spark, and says as much. Like, I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I live in the past because it's a past when there was still a possibility of happiness.
Yeah.
But it's not for me, and I've accepted that, and I get my needs met, and I'm
yeah. I do think it feels to me that like Van and Ty were together probably for a long time.
For a while, yeah. 5 years before Callie and Jeff got married.
Right.
Post
they went to the wedding. Yeah.
Rescue. So maybe 5 years at least. But also it seems like Van has always been the one taking care of Ty.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe that got to be too much.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
In rewatching the season 1, episode 6, it was really highlighted how the marriage that Ty has with Simone is kind of a sham. She's trying to steal money from their joint account. She's not communicating with Simone about anything.
Right.
Simone is trying to engage Ty in Sammy's psychology appointment and their life, but Ty's off making big decisions alone. Versus with Van, she opens up immediately and is open about everything, really.
Right. Yeah. So back to the cabin.
Yeah.
Everybody is they're trying to get Shauna to push to get the baby out.
Everyone's chanting.
Yeah. And Shauna's looking real sick, really, really deathly.
Yeah. She says, "Save my baby." Oh, and then Misty has that important line of something like, just one more push, and then you're so close to being on the other side of this, and then you get to meet your baby.
Oh, yeah.
The other side.
The other side.
where she would be able to meet her baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I called it a fever dream, but it might be more like a near-death experience, really.
It was. And I
Yeah.
noted this because now almost all of the survivors have had NDEs.
Yep.
We've got Lottie, Nat like 3 times over, or Van like 3 times over. We have
Hmm.
Lottie, Van, Nat, Shauna.
Hmm.
Just Misty and Ty are the only ones that haven't.
Right. Yeah. That's
That's
true.
a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah.
Pretty significant
Hmm.
percentage.
Yeah.
And then Walter has had an NDE.
Right. Yep. That's true.
I read the writers did a lot of research around NDEs.
Hmm.
So I wonder,
I'm sure there's more to come then for,
right? I
for
mean, there
for
are
the
whole
yeah.
religions around this, around
Yeah.
NDEs.
Okay. Hmm. Have you noticed that like the ones that are still holding off on joining the tree cult essentially are ones that haven't had NDEs yet?
Well, it's Ty and Shauna, right?
Yeah. And Shauna's kind of still reluctant to join. I feel like Misty's there just because she likes to be a part of something, but she doesn't necessarily
Right,
believe.
right, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I'm wondering if maybe we'll see Shauna start to believe since her life was saved, or if she'll go the other direction because the baby was not saved.
I'm gonna bet she goes towards the cult.
Hmm.
If your theory is correct that there is no divide in
Hmm.
the group versus others, that would,
Yeah.
that would be more evidence.
Hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, Shauna does a total, flip,
Right. Yeah.
or really pulls away,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I don't know. We'll
Did
see.
you know immediately when it went dark that like this is probably not real, or
All right. Well, the Elliott Smith song and the size of that baby.
right? The size of the baby got me too, but I know that that happens a lot in film anyway because it's hard to get newborns.
Right.
So I didn't know
Yeah.
whether I should look at that as a clue or not.
Yeah. I was half in, half out.
Hmm.
I was willing to believe it. I was, skeptical, suspicious, skeptical, but I didn't know for sure.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Uh, Same. It was the same. Yeah, I thought this is weird. This doesn't track with everything that's just happened. This doesn't make sense. So that was the main reason that I didn't believe it. I did think about the baby being large, but then I thought, well, it's hard to get newborns. But yeah, the thing that was most suspect to me was just that it didn't seem realistic as a possibility. So that's why I was like, But then after a couple minutes, I bought into it.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying. They did a good job.
yeah, they did. I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, cool, I guess. Are we still heading, So I was,
Well, and then when it wouldn't latch, I thought, okay, well, this is how it's going to happen.
right, exactly.
He
Yeah,
won't be able to keep him alive.
yeah. That she'll wake up. I was thinking she would wake up and, maybe he
Yeah.
would have been passed away next to her or something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What did you think of Lottie feeding him?
Oh man, that was the other thing. Well, that was the other clue was that I couldn't tell if she was actually trying to feed him, like if he was actually on Lottie's breast or not, if the shirt
Right.
was sort of between them. I couldn't really tell.
We
So,
have too much we have too much experience with that.
but yeah, right, I know exactly. We talked about this in Servant too, where I was like, was it really breastfeeding?
Yeah. Was it on where was it on the breast exactly? Was it
Yeah.
by the nipple adjacent
Yeah.
or
It looked like the shirt was in the
freeze
way.
framing and yeah.
Yeah. But I did think it was weird. I was expecting something horrible, like it to pull away, and I don't know, there'd be blood everywhere. I wasn't sure what to expect,
Ah,
to be honest.
yeah.
But I did wonder, like, wait a minute, would Lottie even have milk to give her? Like, would her body, I know sometimes that happens, but usually it would happen with somebody who's already had a baby, maybe.
Or like sympathetic. Well, I mean, there were wet nurses. Well, those were
Right.
ones that already had kids, but yeah, like
Yeah.
sympathetic
That's what I'm
milk.
wondering. Like, if you haven't ever had children, would you be able to breastfeed a child that isn't yours?
Yeah.
If does your body still produce the milk anyway, or does it only produce it when your body says to produce it?
As a layperson, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah,
But
that doesn't seem to make sense. So that was definitely, that was another element that went like, that didn't really
yeah.
that made me think that like something was off.
Did you connect at all, or did you have any flashbacks to Jackie's dream before she died in the cabin with the, at first it seems very real, and then things get a little weirder and a little weirder, and there's hot chocolate, and then Laura Lee's there,
Hmm.
and then Cabin Daddy. I was getting those vibes, like,
Yeah. No,
eh,
it didn't. I mean, it didn't come up for me, but I haven't,
okay,
done a super close rewatch. So, but yeah, so we cut away from there, and Van and Ty are heading towards the cult
yep,
grounds,
cult camp.
and having
And
a bit of a tense conversation.
and that's where Van is talking about, I'm kind of disconnecting with life.
Hmm.
I get my needs met. That's it. It's enough.
Yeah, yeah, and such a awkward and tough, sad conversation to have with somebody that you love so much or loved so much or what. I mean, they still love each other even if they're not together. But I could just also tell that like Ty was probably the one that ended things,
Yeah.
because just the way that Van was acting made me feel that way. So that's my hunch.
The more hurt party.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Hmm.
you're probably right.
Um,
Um,
and so Lisa also gave the goldfish to Natalie.
so sweet.
And
And Natalie tries to kill it.
right, yeah. And I thought that I didn't understand. I had a tough time with that scene. I didn't really understand why she was doing that, to be honest.
Yeah. It was a weird scene.
Yeah.
The way I made sense
Unless
of it.
unless it's meant to imply that like as this darkness begins to infiltrate them again, or as they're all sort of coming together, that there are parts of themselves that
They're still
do,
fighting it.
yeah, that do hurtful things, even if it's like, well, basically like Ty with the family dog,
Oh yeah.
right?
Okay.
Like why would she said like I killed the family dog, like it's not like I wanted to do that or I wanted to hurt, I just did it. So maybe like this is another example of that.
I don't know. I saw it more as Nat being in a dark place and kind of wanting to believe what she was saying to Lisa earlier. I'm poison. I hurt people.
Hmm.
No one should be around me. But at her core, she's such an empathetic provider, good person that she
Yeah.
couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
also, I connected it to the baby, just the gasping, the oxygen in the lungs.
That's good too. Yeah.
I saw it as like foreshadowing or connection
Yeah. That's another great parallel. You're right.
when at the cult camp when Misty hails Nat, come sit with me after holding court. um, leave us. Uh,
Yes.
Nat asks Misty about Walter and then says that odd thing like, "Oh, we're all like this, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Like none of us can keep love, or none of us are meant to have people."
Yeah.
I don't know, it was so sad.
No, I thought that was a great line too, and it's true. I think that they've really tried to demonstrate that this season, especially.
Well, and probably in a push for why they need to reconnect,
Yeah.
to be with
Hmm.
the people that they can be open with and
Yeah.
maybe heal.
What do you think of the conversation of Ty with Jeff over the phone?
That was the best.
Yeah.
Just in the bathroom, things can take a while.
I thought it was interesting too, like how he talked. He did a nice job of like, what like it. Like I got the feeling that he liked Van more because he was like, "Hey, Van." Like there
Right.
seemed to be a little bit more of a friendly exchange there that he was trying to get in at the end, and
Yeah.
had a tougher time with Ty, I think, and communicating with her. So I thought that was a neat little insight into how he fits into sort of his wife's group of
I
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember when Ty came over for dinner, he was like, "Oh, Ty, welcome. You can come by anytime. And
Yeah,
they've got a closeness there. Well, she was
right,
at their
exactly.
wedding. It's,
Yeah. So it's
I,
cool because sometimes Jeff seems so sort of removed from everything. And, there hasn't even been a ton of talk of like how much him and Shauna have talked about what happened and how he feels about it.
I know.
I mean,
think,
Jeff is kind of just this sort of plot device as opposed to a genuine actual character who would have his own thoughts and feelings about all of this, probably pretty substantially.
well, yeah, with all this talk of like, well, and Shauna's conversation in the police station when she's going over, I'm a bad mother,
Mm-hmm.
I got into a marriage out of guilt and obligation and had a baby to save this failed marriage or failing marriage. And,
Did you think that all of that was true, or do you think that she was making that up, or do you think it was like a little bit of both?
I think she probably started it out laying it on thick and then got into a flow of honesty.
Yeah.
It made me think back to season 1 when she realizes that Jeff read the journals
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago, and she's
Right.
like, and he's like, yeah, I love you, of course I love you.
Yeah, that was all very interesting. I'm still puzzled by their relationship, to be honest.
I know. Shauna is very deep and
Yeah,
Jeff is pretty superficial with things.
exactly. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to hopefully see eventually how they sort of come together to a point of marriage
Yeah.
after the crash, because for me, since the beginning of the show, that marriage has never made sense to me.
Well, and I think it'll be interesting to see how if they come together and actually choose one another
Mm-hmm.
towards
Yeah.
the end, if they will,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
because they seem really compatible. Jeff kind of grounds Shauna, and
Yeah.
Shauna,
They definitely work
Jeff,
well together.
yeah,
It's just I don't believe that they would have ever gotten that far. Like I don't believe that they would have had a relationship that would have sustained all of this crazy trauma afterwards to the point that they would get married with the versions of them that we know currently. But we
well,
don't have that part of the picture yet.
yeah.
So I'm interested to see that eventually. I mean, it kind of is like, with Servant, where some people would be like, I don't understand why,
I still don't understand that
why,
marriage.
like, how did that occur and how did that happen? And then why did they stay together? Because they were both so hateful to each other so much of the time.
Yeah.
Um, but eventually you did start to see, like, oh, these people do love each other. And and maybe these are the reasons why. But yeah, it's, when you don't see, I just think it's interesting to have a story where you're showing this backstory, but really all we know is that they slept together a couple times and then now they're married.
Well, I mean, as Jeff says in season 1, our marriage has been built on lies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they've also built a life together. And I think
Right.
that's important to Jeff.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yeah.
that may be more important to Shauna than she realizes.
Right.
That
Yeah.
he helped her realize that she could have sustainability, that even though she still can't allow herself to love completely, she was able to risk losing another child to have one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that experience scarred Shauna
Oh,
so
I'm
deeply,
sure. Yeah.
that I mean, as she says, I didn't ever want to open myself up to that kind of pain again.
Mm-hmm.
But she did, and that's hope.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Jeff brings out in her
Yeah.
because he's so kind of
Yeah.
golden retriever.
Well, and probably also because he knew Shauna before the accident too.
That's a good point.
So maybe he knows a part of her that nobody, and when people know you before, whatever that means,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's just something that,
Power in there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. To go like,
And
this
that,
person knew me before these things happened and they
yeah.
loved me then, and then these things happen and they still love me now. So there's meaning and,
Yeah.
yeah,
Back to the journals.
right.
You read them and still you love me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
That makes sense.
what did you make of Van's reaction to seeing Lottie at the camp? The look on her face.
Yeah, there was definitely something there
It,
that felt bigger than our own knowledge, but we really see Van in the past taking to everything that Lottie's saying in the wilderness.
yeah.
So, I don't know.
She didn't want to get out of the car.
Yeah.
She didn't want to she wanted to just drop Ty off.
Yeah.
And I wonder if she's afraid of Lottie.
She might be. Yeah. I think that she probably has a healthy fear. I mean, if Lottie is the one that sort of started the sacrificing and really pushed for that, then that also makes sense why maybe they're all having sort of different reactions to seeing her.
Yeah.
Misty trying to be very unfazed
Right.
and intrigued, and what are you going to do next, and Van seeming a bit scared and upset by it. So it does seem that they kind of place Lottie in a big spot of responsibility,
Yeah.
but they also, okay, I wonder if they, because they, okay, they have all made a point to say Lottie, the one who's in the mental institution in Switzerland,
Yeah.
like all of them say it. So I wonder if after everything happened, I wonder if they like in their own minds, they came to this point of thinking and realizing like, oh, we were victims of
A crazy person.
right. And she
Yeah.
was crazy and she was always crazy and she was should have been on meds and she wasn't. And all of this stuff happened and we believed her because
We were traumatized, and what else
right,
were we gonna
exactly.
do?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's been what they've had to wrestle and reckon with since they returned.
Well,
And
it
so
does.
now this sort of presentation of maybe that wasn't really the case is jarring. And also, yeah, so maybe Van is, maybe they feel like she, they're angry with her and
Ooh,
scared of her, and that would make sense.
Alicia. This
Mhm.
goes back to the goldfish. Nat, when she was talking to Lisa with the target practice scene, saying, she says, this whole time I blamed Lottie for Travis's death, but it was really me.
Mhm.
I did it. And
Mhm.
I wonder if that goldfish is like her trying to reckon with Lottie's not the bad guy, the villain, it's
Right.
me. I'm the
Mhm.
killer. I'm the poison one.
Mhm. Yeah. Maybe so. Yeah.
They're all wrestling with taking some rationalization and responsibility off of Lottie and onto
Right.
themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good point.
It's very interesting, definitely. I thought the scene with Shauna where, in her mind where the baby finally latched on was so beautiful. And
Oh,
Sophie did a beautiful job with that scene. It was really sweet and sad and
heartbreaking.
yeah.
And you and me against the whole world.
Oh God. Mm.
But it also made me think of, they're they're in this dream space where it really is just you and me,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
and not the whole world.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then she goes to sleep and wakes up and they're eating the baby. So they
yeah.
still gave the baby eating. They just put it in a dream.
I thought, was so tricky.
I know.
You writers,
I was like, they said they weren't doing this. Oh, okay. They
they
didn't.
promised.
They
They
promised.
swore
Yeah.
they're not going to eat the baby. We're not going there. They did.
No baby eating.
Even Coach Ben.
um so
Tricky, tricky.
yeah, I think it was so sad at the end where she kept saying, why don't you hear him crying? Can't you hear him crying? Such a tough thing. And everybody kind of falls away
Yeah.
because none of them really know what to say or do.
But yeah, the hard part, I mean, for them, it's like the urgency is over.
Hmm.
The time to try to act is done. Now it's
Right.
just,
Yeah. And I'm sure
uh,
they're all upset, but I also think that the fact that having a baby to have to care for in that
oh yeah,
situation was also just
untenable.
exactly
Wouldn't have
like
worked.
Yeah. And you could really feel, I mean, you could really feel that too. Like, what, if the baby wasn't feeding, like, like, even still,
Yes.
what are they going to do? What are they going to do for this poor
Right.
baby?
You've got this baby crying nonstop
Yeah.
and nothing that you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been, oh,
And then
God.
people are getting pissed off because nobody can get any
Right.
rest. And
Yep. And now, Shauna, you go in this bedroom alone. You
Mhm.
deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, that goes to show how isolating motherhood can feel, especially early motherhood.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and yeah, I thought it was interesting at the end. We get that shot of Lottie that you see in the trailer in the blue, and she's,
Looking
walking over.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of them are standing there waiting for him. And then, we go to the aerial shot,
Yeah.
where you see the symbol there in the
Yep.
dirt, which is
That
a
was a very,
great
very
shot.
cool reveal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Very, very
And
cool.
we'd never seen that before, right?
Mm-mm. No, definitely not.
I was
I don't
racking my
recall
brain.
seeing it before.
Yeah. Is this a reveal or is this something that we already knew?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that people had guessed at, I think, that
Hmm.
it was either the same land or there was some connection to what they had made out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. Well, there we
All
go.
right. That
Yeah,
episode.
I'll
Bummer.
be interested to see how Shauna processes all of this. I'm sure that she'll be in a really dark place, at least in the immediate aftermath. So,
Yeah. I wonder if they're gonna pull kind of like a Van wolf attack. Like we get one episode of her face being all mauled, and then the next episode
yeah,
pretty much okay.
she's doing all right. Yeah. It'd
The
be
natural
nice if there
healing.
was sort of a conversation about whether or not there was some supernatural healing happening out here.
Right.
To some degree. Also, I feel bad for the actresses for all of the blood pills they must have to like chew on,
Oh,
and
right.
disgusting stuff they have to put in their mouth to make it look like they're chewing on flesh.
Right.
Oh.
Trials of being an actress.
Kudos,
Tell us about
exactly,
it.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, do you have anything else you want to bring up before we wrap this one up?
I think I'm good. I feel like we were a little low energy on this one because it was such a sad. It was a hard
yeah.
episode to process, but
yeah, it was also, I don't know, it was also pretty straightforward. I think in that we had sort of one storyline happening in each timeline, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was we knew we were driving towards something, a reveal on. We knew we were driving towards the reunification of all the adults and to the birth of this baby. And we'd been heading that way, the first half of the season. So now that all of that has happened, it's sort of, okay, well, where do we go from here? So I'm interested to see what happens next, because I think that sort of the stuff that we were waiting and expecting to see, now that it's happened, we get to move on to some new
territory.
New territory.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this one. Thank you for joining us again. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments and ideas and anything else you want to talk more about. So please feel free to hit us up in the comments below. If you haven't already subscribed and you like what you're hearing, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we're dropping new videos on Yellowjackets and our other show From that we're doing as well. So yeah, we hope you guys are having a good week, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.